21 days until the next meeting of the FOMC, but the minutes from that last meeting of the central bank are out in less than 24 hours. So let's pull out the old central bank ball and try to figure out what was most important to them and bring in Steve Leeson. By the way, just a reminder that anytime you use the word Fed, you owe $1 for the team. But because this is your job, I've decided to give you bulk discount, 10 Fed mentions for the price of 7.
Okay, I'll think about
Deal?
that. And now you're going to disrupt everything I'm going to say because I'll be inside my own head thinking about what I'm saying.
That's my goal.
So the minutes you would think from the Federal Open Market Committee, Federal's cool, right?
That's cool.
Cool. Federal Open Market Committee, are that they're a little bit dead on arrival in the sense that they come before the weak payroll numbers. And those weak payroll numbers generally took off the table, according to most on Wall Street, a rate hike in October. However, there's a couple things in there I'll be looking for. The first is what they say, what the FOMC members say about the economic situation. Just how worried were they? How worried were they about the inflation situation? And in that context, I'm going to be looking very carefully at the staff report here. We don't normally spend a whole lot of time there, but there'll be two things in the staff report I'll be looking for. How much were they preparing for a rate hike? Some of the preparation sometimes gets into the Fed staff report.
There you go,
the Fed staff report, that's two, I repeated it. And the other thing is their international outlook and how much weak economics overseas plays into the inflation outlook in the U.S. That'll show up, I think, in the Fed staff report.
Okay, let's also bring in
we'll animate the thinking of the FOMC members.
Fantastic. Let's bring in Joe Lavoine now. Joe recently pushing back his expectation for a hike from late this year to early next year. Joe, why'd you do it, and what are you most interested in the minutes of the FOMC tomorrow?
The last point, Brian, all the things Steve mentioned, I would agree with. That's what you want to look for, the international, how close they were to hiking rates and what they think about inflation. In particular, how confident, if they are, inflation will get back to 2%. But the reason I changed is really many reasons. The biggest three: one, the employment number Steve mentioned. It was a very soft report. Two, the fact that GDP, and I've been relatively bullish for a while on growth, we're going to have a significant pullback in Q3 activity on the back of much weaker net exports. So I cut my GDP forecast quite sizably.
Hey,
and
Joe,
then thirdly,
Joe,
the Fed funds market just not pricing a hike.
Joe, I want to push back for you a little bit on that GDP number. Are you cutting back domestic demand there, or is this a matter of exports and inventories?
It is exports and inventories. The underlying consumption number should be pretty good. And what we basically have right now, Steve, is an economy 70% of which the consumer is doing remarkably well.
So the weakness
but the
is a
remaining
little
30
overstated.
is horrible.
Because exports aren't that big of a deal.
No, it is a big deal. It's something you want to watch for. It's manufacturing, it's jobs, it's good numbers. But
here's the thing.
Joe, I just want to make sure that people understand that when we talk about going from 3.7, which, by the way, was too high because of exports and inventories, 3.9, sorry, down to a number that, where are you, in the 1.5% range where a lot of people are, that weakness is just as clearly overstated.
Well, partly, Steve. Here's the thing, though, Steve. Yes, that's part of the story. But remember, part of the Q2 rebound is what happened in Q1 with the port strike. The weakness we're seeing in net exports in Q3, given the fact that it's a function of both the stronger dollar and weaker overseas activity, is likely to persist. And while you're right, domestic demand, final domestic demand should be very good in the quarter. One has to wonder how long that will remain the case with overall income creation likely to slow.
Okay, I just want to make one point, which is all of this boils down to yada, 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 it's a 2% economy, right?
Well, I would say yes, 2, but the risk is it's weaker.
Over the 3 quarters, it's a 2% economy.
But, Steve, here's the problem the Fed has. The Fed is trying to raise rates with a noticeable deceleration in job growth and GDP that going into the December meeting very well will have a one handle on it. That, to me, is a real communications problem.
Okay, and those minutes, by the way, cross 2 o'clock Eastern time
on your
in this fine program tomorrow. We'll look for a change of language. You owe $2, Joe owes $1, and I owe $1 for the intro and telling people what they can't say.
But I only owe 70% of $2.
That's true. We got a bulk discount for you, Lisa, and you're ready to go.